everyone, and welcome to my show, Autumn is Here. I'm your host, Francine Crawford, and I'm here today with Marcia Henne, and she is here from Caring Kind, an organization that supports caregivers. Please welcome her to our show. Welcome, Marcia. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Francine. What a pleasure it is to be here.
I'm so glad that you came here to share some of your information with us. Just to get started, can you tell us a little bit about Caring Kind and what your position is there?
Absolutely. I am the program manager for a program called Memory Advocate Peers. And what Caring Kind is a nonprofit organization. It's in Manhattan. We've been around for a little over 40 years. And we provide programs and services to persons with the diagnosis and also their families.
Okay. So let me ask you something, especially you're talking about dementia. Sometimes people don't really understand or the signs or what to look for. When do you go to a doctor? What is it that will prompt somebody to go to a doctor, or things that they should look out for, that they should possibly get a diagnosis?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that that's such an important question. Many times, most people, when they're aging, they tend to think, if I'm forgetful, if I don't remember where I have my keys or where I put my glasses, or nowadays our cell phone, we tend to think that's normal part of aging. Sometimes it becomes a little bit more than that. And the concerns grow and we feel, okay, is this memory loss or is this just normal forgetfulness that comes with aging? In the past, they used to just often say it's senility. You know, we're becoming senile, we're getting older, this is normal. And to some degree, aging does do that to us. But when it comes to real memory loss, when we're not able to really kind of remember the day, the time, if we're forgetting things and we're not really recalling them back, then I would say that's a concern. If repetitiveness is something that is happening to you or your loved ones that you see that in, I would say that's when you want to go to your doctor and let them know that you're concerned about your health and your memory.
Okay, so sometimes when you go to the doctor, they say that you have mild cognitive decline.
Mild cognitive impairment, yeah.
Is that the same as having dementia, or is that just what people used to call senility?
No. So actually mild cognitive impairment is an actual disease. Now, dementia is just the word for, it's kind of like an umbrella term for the symptoms that will be specifically of memory loss. So Alzheimer's is a dementia. MCI is a form of dementia. Lewy bodies is a form of dementia. Vascular dementia is another form of dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia.
Okay. I
don't know if that kind of explains it or makes it more confusing. But
No, well, I was asking because I know people have said that somebody has mild cognitive decline or something like that, as if it was not as important or not as impacting.
Yeah.
And it is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because it could be the beginning of Alzheimer's, but it generally can happen at a time where maybe it's impacted by something else. So meaning that the risk factors can be because of maybe diabetes, high cholesterol. And if naturally you have to be examined and go through evaluations. And the doctor will go ahead and let you know if it is MCI, you can basically still be able to do a lot for yourself. It's not going to impact your life as maybe a specific dementia, Alzheimer's, for example. MCI can lead to Alzheimer's, doesn't always lead to Alzheimer's.
Okay.
So it should definitely be taken seriously, yes, because it does affect your life to some degree.
Right.
Not fully that you're going to need 24-hour care, but it will affect you. For example, if maybe you're taking the subway or if you have to take medication and you don't remember what exactly time you're supposed to take it or what you're supposed to take. So yeah.
Okay. So what are the services that you provide at Caring Kind?
So again, Caring Kind is a nonprofit organization. We provide programs and services for the families, but also for the person living with the diagnosis. And what does that actually mean? For the person living with the diagnosis, we have a lot of services that are for the early stage.
Mhm.
As the disease progresses, the person might not be able to participate anymore in some of these services because they're losing cognition. But by that point, that person has already, hopefully, been able to participate in several of the programs. We have, for example, the program that I manage, Memory Advocate Peers. That program is a program specifically for the person with the diagnosis and their care partner. And they're basically paired, almost like a match.com.
Oh.
They're paired with a former caregiver that already has the experience of, having cared for somebody, and they can give you so much insight. They can teach you so many skills. They can show you what it is to really have a great communication with your loved one. Because we know that in general, in the past, the stigma lies very, very hard on dementia and, people living with Alzheimer's.
Right.
And the caregiver is generally known as, they're overwhelmed, overworked, overburdened. But there's a lot of beauty that can still happen for, the person that's caring for, the person with dementia, because they get to be with them that much more. And early detection is a big part of that, of course, so that meaning the caregiver, care partner, and I use that word interchangeably because now you hear more people referring to a caregiver as a care partner. But the care partner will generally be able to provide not just care, but they can actually get a lot from the person with the diagnosis. If it's an early detection, they get to, help them make decisions that maybe you might be, as a caregiver, doing yourself, if you're the power of attorney or if you're the healthcare proxy. In early detection, the person living with the diagnosis can make those decisions for themselves. They can actually, tell their family what they like, what they don't like, what they prefer for their long term. Sometimes it might become a very difficult decision for the caregiver later on to say, I might have to place my family member, my loved one in a residential facility, in a nursing home. But it might be a little easier if that person with the diagnosis years before was able to say, you know what? Yeah, maybe that's not my first choice, or that's never my first choice, but I want you to feel comfortable doing it when the time comes.
Right.
And that will be easier for that person, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Well, I know that Caring Kind has outreach for the communities. Can you tell us a little bit about that program?
Yeah, absolutely. Our outreach right now, we're kind of going through some structural, changes because we want to be able to change with the times, right? Caring Kind wants to and is the trusted partner of the communities, but we also know that in some communities, our services are, basically nobody even knows about these services. And it's not just the, Caring Kind. There's the Alzheimer's Association, there's the Alzheimer's Foundation. Nationwide, there's many different organizations, but we've been around for many years, and we know that with our current partners and collaborators, we know what's working and what's not. Right. And when it's not, then we need to tweak it, right? We need to change that. So what we're doing is really just coming out to the communities, specifically to underrepresented communities, and underserved communities, to the Latino, to the Black and Brown communities, to be able to bring the services to them. It's not always that easy for the people to go to the city. Right. Sometimes we have a family member that is, maybe has to be at home, not necessarily maybe bedridden, but they maybe can't leave the home. Right. And I like to think that, with the craziness of the COVID pandemic, there were some silver linings. And that's this virtual kind of meetings that we can have now, Zoom or WebEx or whatever, right? So I think that has enabled a lot of the people that couldn't get out to our services to bring the services to them. Okay. But now, 4 years later, we're saying, well, we don't have to do this virtually. We can come out and do it in person, and we can make those connections and we can build the trust. Right. Because that's the the real kind of crux and the real problem and the big barriers is building trust.
Mm-hmm.
In the Black and Brown communities, we understand clearly that there has been historically, years and decades and hundreds of years of, mistrust in medical systems.
Yes.
Right. And we have to be able to learn about that to better serve and to better understand how do we better that? How do we make that better? I'm a Latina. I'm a former caregiver. I cared for my mother who had Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you when I was doing that, I was not in the field of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea how to do this. And I was one of 4 sisters where we were struggling consistently day to day with, first of all, accepting it,
Right.
accepting what was going on. Not even the diagnosis, just accepting the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't acknowledge mom's getting lost consistently in the neighborhood. She was living alone.
Mm-hmm.
Our neighbors would tell us, I would go and visit her and see, sometimes burnt food on the stove.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered, how long has this been sitting here?
Yeah.
And I realized we need to pay attention to this, and if I was one of 4, can you imagine those that are maybe just one adult child or one spouse that's seeing this and not really emotionally and mentally able to accept what's happening with your loved one?
Right.
Especially for an adult child. It becomes so hard for us to really get in the driver's seat and to be able to say, okay, I'm taking care of things now.
Right. Right.
Because that's not how we grew up, right? Mom and dad generally, right? In many cases, not everyone's, but they taught us how to walk. They taught us how to bathe. They taught us how to make decisions,
right.
Whether it's for, college or marriage or whatever, right? So we're kind of used to having our parent kind of be that, that God and that goddess.
Yeah.
And when that person is no longer capable of doing that, our mind, it takes some time to register, and then the heartbreak. And then you go to the doctors and you follow through with the so many, different exams that need to be done to get tested for Alzheimer's or, an eventual, MCI or Alzheimer's. To realize and hear those words for them, let alone for you as a care partner, is devastating. And there's nobody there that helps us, holds our hand to say, we know what you're going through and this is going to be hard. But, there are services.
Right.
So we want to change that. We want to be able to say in diagnostic centers, in the communities, guess what? There is a center. We hope you never have to call us, right?
Right.
But
exactly.
if there comes the time, let's learn about it. The more educated we are about it, the more empowered we are going to be to help our loved one.
Right.
And I think ultimately, Francine, the more we're going to actually be able to enjoy this loving journey of caring for our loved one. Otherwise, you do see it as a burden. Otherwise, it is a burden. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're speaking about how a caregiver, they have to care for someone and the person is changing and the acceptance of it and how to understand what's going on and how to, relate to them and care for them. Part of what I'm hearing, you're saying that if you're a caregiver of someone with dementia, there's going to be a time when you're going to have to change your mindset. Your parent is not the one that takes care of you. Your parent's not the one that guides you right now. You're going to have to be the person to guide them and help them. And you're also going to have to understand what this disease is and how it progresses and how you deal with it. And it's different steps. So you have to somehow get them to change their mindset. How do you do that? How do you do that?
So I think ultimately the one word answer would be education.
Okay.
So we have at Caring Kind, an education department where we have seminars. We provide, kind of like the basics. We call it Understanding Dementia. It's a 2-hour class. You can take it virtually as well. And in that class, we really kind of provide to the care partner, to the caregiver, the understanding, first of all, of what are those differences? Dementia, Alzheimer's, MCI, now we hear a lot more different types of dementias, FTD, Bruce Willis was just diagnosed with that. So you hear a lot about these different types. So we do kind of give you an overview of dementia. What is it about? We speak about the different stages, early, mid, and late. And what does that look like in your loved one? What are some of the things that you're going to see? Those kind of initial first 10 signs of early stage, when to actually act on it. What's going to happen in mid stage? Doesn't happen with everybody, but there's a general progression that you will see. In mid stage, what to expect. And when does maybe kind of a 24-hour care needs to begin to happen for the person with dementia, or the person that's experiencing the memory loss? What does late stage look like? And again, you hear a lot of people saying, oh, but my mother always recognized me, or my husband, oh, he never forgot who I was. That's, I guess, one of the, kind of stereotypes of Alzheimer's that we often hear, and people think my mother can't possibly have Alzheimer's because she always recognizes me. But not everybody experiences that. And, I kind of think, thank God that some of us get to have our loved ones always recognize us, right? But they give you an overview of what the disease is. And they also help you to understand what's actually happening in the brain, right? What is it that, not the actual cause, because we don't know that yet. Right. Scientists are still working on that. But what is it that's actually happening between the plaques and the tangles that are actually accumulating in the cells of the brain? And what does that do to those cells? And therefore, how the disease is progressing. Sometimes you might see somebody with Alzheimer's or a dementia that might seem very calculated. They might kind of know exactly, my phone is here, my remote control is here, but they might say, well, Francine, you didn't give me lunch or you didn't give me dinner, because they just don't remember. Right. And that's not them being calculated. It's just the part of the brain that's processing that. And so sometimes it becomes hard for the caregiver, family members, or friends to even understand. And because of that becomes this stigma. And then you start seeing isolation. Oh, I'm not sure if I really want to see Francine's mom anymore, or Marcia's mom anymore. She's just becoming very aggressive. She's getting very, loud, and these are some of those stereotypes that if we were to be able to help them right from the very beginning, from the first time we see symptoms, maybe they wouldn't get to that anxiety level. Maybe they wouldn't get to that place of anger or frustration, because what they're expressing, there's a root cause for that. Right. There's a root cause, and many times it's a silent cause, right? It could be a UTI that, they have an infection in their body. Right. People with dementia are prone to get UTIs. It could be that they just have a cold. Nowadays there's COVID, and maybe you don't see the typical symptoms, but they might be feeling something and they just don't know how to express it. So it comes out, maybe in an aggressive, loud, angry, a bit of a trucker's mouth as a way, right?
Oh, let me ask you one question. When we were talking about community, I want to know, how receptive is the community to what you bring to them?
So it really depends, right? I'm a Latina, and so sometimes, we want to see people that look like us and that sound like us, right? They're receptive to me and to our organization because they know our programs and services are free of charge. We don't charge anybody. You call us when you feel that you need the services, and we will be there to help you. We're not going to be reaching out to you unless you ask us to, right? So these type of kind of ways helps to build the trust, right? the more you sound and look like, the community, and the more kind of similarities, the more they're going to trust you.
Okay.
I can tell you that I can go out into the community, specifically maybe, and provide a shortened seminar of the basics of Alzheimer's.
Right.
But if I don't give the examples that I myself experienced personally, having been a caregiver, they might just see it as, it's a PowerPoint, or they just talk about whatever they need to talk about. But when you start actually giving the examples, people connect because they're saying, oh my God, that's what my neighbor's happening to them. That's what my Aunt Sue just went through. Mm-hmm. That's what my husband, Barry, is just going through. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, wait, I can't believe that exactly what you're talking about is exactly, I was just accused of having, her wallet, that I stole her wallet. Mm-hmm. I'm your daughter. How would I steal your wallet, Mom? Right? So these are examples. And I think that's that initial kind of foot in the door for people to really kind of get what we're trying to do here is to just connect, to say Alzheimer's and dementia doesn't discriminate. It's going to hit us all. Right now, the numbers globally are crazy. In the US alone, we have about 6.9 million people with Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. Now, I have to say these are diagnosed people, right? Mm-hmm. Think of, unfortunately, the thousands or many, many more that are not diagnosed, that won't go out and go to the doctor and say, hey, primary care physician, I'm beginning to feel like I have some memory loss. Can you test me for this? Right. It takes a lot also to do that. It takes major courage to be able to go there and start admitting, I think I'm becoming beyond forgetful. Maybe it's memory loss. Mm-hmm. So that's really tough. But consistency is another good reason that people are really kind of understanding, okay, maybe we should be listening to this caring kind, whoever they are, right? Mm-hmm. Being there, understanding that when, the person is affected by memory loss, now whether it's a diagnosed or not diagnosed, we're going to be there. We're going to be there to help provide you referrals to diagnostic centers within your neighborhood, if it's available. We're going to give you referrals to elder law attorneys, because you got to get your finances in order. Mm-hmm. Because we're going to be able to give you referrals to support groups. Mm-hmm. I have to say support groups along with education are one of the most important things that a caregiver really needs. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't really feel like, I'm not a support person, a support group kind of person, until you go there and you start hearing some of the stories and you think, wow, my sister's going through the same thing. Yeah. Maybe I should just check it out one more time, and then the more you do it, the more you can kind of see you have something in common. Mm-hmm. I like to say that amongst caregivers, I have found a whole new tribe of brothers and sisters, because only we can kind of know what we've gone through. True. Right? Or what we're going through. True. And, as a caregiver, Francine, many, many times, the caregiver will also kind of begin to self-isolate as they're caring for their loved one from their friends, from their colleagues, from their family. And the reason is because oftentimes everybody that's on the outside, that's not there on the day-to-day, they may not quite understand that what the caregiver is explaining is actually true.
But they don't understand. If you don't go through it, you don't understand the whole picture.
Absolutely.
People can sympathize with you, but you don't understand the whole picture.
Absolutely.
Unless you're going through it and you realize, wow, it's really a difficult thing to do.
Absolutely.
So, but thank you for giving me all this information and what Caring Kind does. Can you give me anything else that you would like to say to the audience that you would think that something that would be helpful to either caregivers or people going through dementia?
Absolutely. And thank you once again for giving me this opportunity, because if anything, I really just want to make sure that we get out to everybody, that everybody can understand there are free services, they're confidential. There's a helpline that, that they can call. It's a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And they can call it and they can call and ask anything. You know what? They can, even if they're having a bad day, you know what? I'm caring for my mom or I'm caring for my husband. And, it's just a terrible day. I just need to speak to somebody. That's okay. There's dementia specialists on the helpline that can help you understand that what you're going through is normal. It's not something that we want to, kind of brush under the rug. It's a difficult day and we want to be there so you're not alone. So we have a helpline. Please feel free to call it, 646-744-2900. And if not, know that there are social workers available to help you, coaching classes on how to, provide care.
Awesome.
Early stages like cognitive stimulation therapy, that's a group specific for people in the early stage where they can feel that they're not alone. Because oftentimes when you're feeling, oh my God, I'm forgetful, I'm this, I'm that, you also want to be in a group of people like caregivers in a support group, but just for you. So this is a proven evidence-based program. It's fantastic. I speak very highly of it. And more than anything, join us even in the great events. We have, teams that run the marathon, run the half marathon. We have a annual walk. It's coming up October 19th in Central Park. It's on a Saturday. And we try to make it a fun brain health day as well, right? It's not a race. We're just there to support our loved ones, whether they're there joining us and walking with us, or whether we're there to honor the memory of our loved ones that have passed on.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a fun day. It's at the band shell. It's definitely one of my favorite events.
You said some things that triggered me, some similar things about not having the support and not knowing a lot of things about dementia and what the next stages were. And that was a issue. But the problem was that I realized all these things after everything happened. I learned a lot as I was going through. Once you're going through, you're in it. So I really wish I had something like Caring Kind and someone was getting the word out that I would be able to have some kind of support, especially when you said you can just call them and say, listen, I'm having a bad day. I don't understand what's going on and stuff like that, because it was just me. So I didn't have sisters and brothers to share this experience with. So I'm just grateful that you have that there. But I really wish I would have known that, because it would have helped me a lot. Emotionally, it would have helped me a lot too. Yeah.
It's hard to go through it alone. It's hard to go through it at all.
Right. Yeah.
But especially alone. I think, Francine, many people are like you, where they feel, I wish I could have. I wish I knew, and I think that the most beautiful thing is that what you're doing now, autumn is here, is that you're coming back and you are able to kind of give back to so many people. Unfortunately, maybe those times that you were feeling alone or maybe not knowing while you were caring for your mom, they were tough. But just think, if it's okay, of your mom now looking down on what you're doing. That's a blessing.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Well, I feel like I'm going to possibly recruit you to be part of the Memory Advocate Peers program, because that's exactly what it is, right? It's really working with individuals that have cared for their loved ones and that kind of want to give back and that say, you know what? I wish I could have had that opportunity just to make it a little bit better for my loved one. But since I don't have that chance, I'm going to go ahead and be a part of this program and be paired with, a dyad with, two people, a care partner and the person living with dementia. And they're in the early stage. So they're, still very cognizant.
Okay.
And you're really just a guide, a friend for them for 12 months. I am fascinated with the program that I'm leading right now because I have seen, we've trained the mentors, we trained the volunteers,
right.
And they get so much out of it. They're like, oh my God, I thought they were the person I'm mentoring, we're going to get so much out of it, but I feel like I've gained so much. So I think that you're probably going to be a great candidate. I'm going to probably follow up on that.
Okay.
Free of charge,
Yeah.
There's nothing better than to be able to speak to an elder law attorney free of charge these days.
Yeah.
Like they generally cost. It's valid and
Awesome.
all, but we have that capacity there as well. Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Marcia, for taking the time to give us this information and share this
Absolutely.
knowledge and just help people to get the word out that there is help out there, there's support out there, and Caring Kind is some organization that's been out there for a long time.
Yeah.
And so you have the experience to help in so many different ways with dementia.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you very
being
much
here.
for having me. This is a fabulous, fabulous program. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Autumn is Here. Please watch on YouTube or listen to us wherever you listen to your podcasts.